It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divas That Care. My name is Candace Gish. Hello, Kelly. Welcome back to the Divas That Care. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Kelly, would you mind reintroducing yourself to all of our listeners today?
Sure. My name is Kelly Wilson, and I'm a mom, a trauma survivor, a comedian, an author, a speaker, all kinds of stuff. And I'm currently in trauma recovery coaching, and I have a couple of books out, and I've got a couple of kids, and I think that covers it.
Well, you know what? It's a pleasure having you back on the Divas. I know it's been quite a few years here, and I was mentioning to our listeners, we're just so excited to have you back. It's always a pleasure to have amazing women like yourself in our program. You are an inspiration. You know, we had the opportunity to meet each other quite a few years ago, and I was absolutely empowered and inspired by you with your humor and everything that you do and how you want to support others. So thank you so much for coming back onto the program and, kind of sharing with us what's new with you.
Well, probably, first of all, thank you for having me back. This is awesome. Probably the most exciting thing is that I'm getting married a week from Monday.
Yay!
And
congratulations.
There's so many... Thank you. There's so many details that I have a countdown, but I can never remember it from day to day. So, and then that wasn't enough excitement over the last couple months. So over the last year, I took a course in trauma recovery coaching, and I decided to open a business over the last couple of months in that. So I've been working really hard on that.
Oh, my goodness, that's amazing. And, that's something that's been really dear to your heart, working with in mental health. You've mentioned in the past that you use humor to tell stories and to help with the healing process. So share with our listeners a little bit more about that.
I love to teach people how to write and perform stand-up comedy because research has shown that humor changes the way that our brain works. And if you're a trauma survivor, it's all about rewiring the brain. I mean, neurons that fire together wire together. So if you can get some of that positive, feel-good stuff going, it builds on itself over time. So that's one way. Another way is just using humor in my practice. It's so much a part of who I am that I have to really work to not use humor. I have to really work to be serious, not in a deflecting way or in a way that invalidates people at all. It's just that's just my first instinct, and so I have to really calm it down sometimes. So just bringing some lightness to the heaviness that is processing trauma and talking about those deep and heavy things, it does really help because our brains are wired to the negative. And so we have to really spend time in the positive to get that stuff going.
I love it. And, I think that's part of what's always inspired. When I look at you, I'm always inspired because, what a great way to do that. Dealing with overwhelming situations and having a little bit of a humor attached to it I think, for me, I would really help me through that process. So I thought, what a great way to do it.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think it takes the place, I'm getting better with affirmations and gratitude practice as I grow in my own trauma healing. So that's not so much an issue anymore, but when I first started in my trauma recovery, I was really cynical about affirmations and gratitude practice and coming at it, being able to make jokes out of what was happening with me helped bridge the gap, I think, between kind of being stuck in all the negativity and then moving out in an authentic way into more positivity and moving forward. So it has a real function.
Yeah, I bet. So with your new business, do you do this just kind of in your local, in the Portland area, or is this something that you're doing online and you work with people all over the world?
I work with people all over the world. What was really fun was that the course that I took was through the International Association of Trauma Recovery Coaching, and it is all online, and it serves international students. So, we would get online for meetings and for group calls and for classes, and there were people all over the world there. So it was a really good way to enter into that comfort level with going online and talking about really deep issues and painful issues on Zoom, rather than being in person. So I feel really comfortable either way. So that was really good.
Oh, I love that. Well, and you know what? And there's a lot of individuals out there that are always looking for somebody that's going to fit them. And because you were able to do this, I think that you're going to help so many people globally because of that reason. Because sometimes, we just need a little bit something different to help us through our journey. Yeah.
And there's no, I've been really thinking about how there's no one way to heal. There's no one right way to heal. And it really is being open to what's going to serve you and letting it come to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think that I love it. And I was going to ask you too, are you still doing your podcast out there?
We are. We're in. we had quite a bit of a rough patch. We started the PTSD Parent podcast, and then he had some major deaths in his family, and I went through a divorce, and we were, reprocessing because we both have PTSD. So we were both, reprocessing trauma because as things happen, it brings up all kinds of stuff to deal with. And so once the pandemic hit, we were kind of traumatized by that. And then about halfway through, we were like, we can just build a season around this. We can't be the only ones who are feeling this way. And so we're about 7 or 8 episodes into the second season and then we're getting ready to release those. So there's stuff going on behind the scenes.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that you'll be able to send them our way and that we can share them with all of our listeners because, you know what, we love supporting other people, especially podcasters out there that, have information that can really help us. And I think that that's what you guys are doing is that you're providing something that is unique. And you know what, we definitely would love to be a part of it and hear all about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. It's great that, we're so different as people, Chris and I, and, he's got men often don't seek help or don't know to seek help or don't know how to seek help. And so I like having that perspective that speaks to men as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that's important. Well, you've got a lot of things that are going on. You're doing your business. You've got the podcast. You are an amazing author. So do you have any new books coming out, or would you love to share with our listeners the books that you've already written?
Sure. Yeah. I started in, probably 12 years ago publishing, and I did a book on saving money that's no longer available. You can find it, but it's, it's one of those that are listed on Amazon for $200, which just cracks me up because it's live cheap and free. So if you want to buy it for $200, then I wrote a book about my kids when they were in elementary school called Don't Punch People in the Junk. And it's really a collection of shenanigans. So when a comedian has children, nobody told me. They just provided a lot of stories and laughter, and I my youngest punched 2 children in the junk like 18 hours apart when he was in first or second grade. Now I'd have to reread my own book. And so then I got kind of mad, and I was like, fine, then I'm going to write about it. But
why not,
actually,
right?
Right. And he's a teenager now. Like, both of my kids are teenagers, and they're like, yeah, I thought they would be mad, but they're not. They're ready for more stories. So there's a follow-up to that one called Poop Before You Get on the Boat. So that needs to be put together. Then the next book I wrote is Caskets from Costco, and it's a grief memoir. A funny grief memoir about trauma recovery and going through the process that I went through for healing. And then I wrote a funny book about intimacy, I guess you could say, Kelly Wilson's The Art of Seduction, because I would just have these terrible ideas for how women could seduce the men in their lives. And they're just terrible. And so my best friend, I would tell her, and she would make fun of me. She'd be like, The Art of Seduction. And she said, you should write these down. You should really do something with them. So I did. And it has charts and maps and definitions and terrible, terrible ideas that are really funny.
And it's so diverse, the stuff that you've written.
Yeah, they are. They really are. But the next one I think I'm going to work on is called The Thing About Trauma, because now that I'm like, I don't know, almost 20 years into trauma recovery, I look back and I think, there are some really obvious things that I wish someone would have told me. And so I want to put together kind of like, even though there is no one right way to heal or one way to heal, there are similarities in everybody's process, right? So I'd like to put together like a handbook, a guidebook, especially for people who are supporting. Yeah.
And you'll have some humor
I found
in
myself,
there too.
Oh, yeah, totally. I can't help it.
You know what? I think that's what the world needs.
There's a lot. Me too. More healing.
Well, when
more
you
recovery.
think about all the stuff that's been happening, exactly, with all and a lot of people I think have gone through some type of a trauma. We talk about that lots. You will talk with, go for coffee, you do things, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think there's been a lot of stuff in the last, 18 months that people have had to deal with also. And we're trying to figure out and navigate through different situations. And I think having humor on your side, being able to laugh, to be able to look at it a little bit differently, I think that's what the world needs. We need a lot more humor. We need to be able to smile again because we haven't smiled in a long time.
Yes, I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read something like that from you. I always get a kick out of everything you're doing. Being able to have been around you when we went to that retreat together, I was just like, I was giggling. I'm like, you are such a funny person. And, I was drawn to you, to the fact that, okay, you're going to make me smile. And I think that's what's really important. And when you can help others find their humor through your trauma, through your stand-up comedies, I hope that you are continuing to do a whole bunch of those other things also.
Yes. Definitely the things that make my brain feel good, because I'm in a trauma healing process too. It's not like I've got everything figured out. Oh man.
I don't think you ever
would be
do.
Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So what else is going to be new for you? What's coming up in your life besides the things that we've talked about?
Well, I am really hoping that the world will be able to open back up, because I'd love to get out there and do a little bit more speaking. I was starting to really get into that, and then the pandemic hit and, obviously shut everything down. And for a long time, I was not comfortable with Zoom or doing like virtual stuff, virtual conferences and stuff. But, obviously this is the way the world is now. So adapting is great. I think I just needed a little bit more time. So looking for more speaking opportunities, kind of buckling down, especially as my kids get older and they're moving into, their own jobs and college and apartments and stuff. And it's time. Like, it's time to bring all of this learning and growing into the world, different kind of birth. So, yeah, and
I think
really, just buckling down and bringing a lot of focus to passion, because it's one thing to have passion, but it's another thing to be able to execute it. And so, like, buckling down with the podcast and focusing on just like the steps, the daily things, just like we do in trauma recovery. Like, we just do the daily things that help us to heal, and some of them are really basic, like eat well, and that can be a real struggle. Take our meds, get enough exercise, get our sleeping schedule. So, transferring those skills to the passions that I have, getting a book written, finishing a podcast season, finding speaking gigs, those kinds of things.
I love it. I love that. I think it's really important. Thank you so much for doing that, because it's going to help so many people. Kelly, how can our listeners get a hold of you if they're interested in working with you in your trauma recovery?
They can get a hold of me at a few different places. There's ptsdparent.com. There's mapyourhealing.com, which is trauma recovery coaching, and wilsonwrites.com. So Wilson, and then WRIT as in Tom, ES as in Sam.com. Wilson Writes is a good overview of all kinds of stuff. So I've got, that's like the buffet of all the things I do. And then people can pick and choose from there. That I would say start with that.
Well, that's perfect. And what I'm going to be doing to all of our listeners is putting that on our links for our social media so that you can check it out. And you can also send it on to your friends and family. Well, Kelly,
awesome.
One other thing I'm going to ask you is, well, you're welcome. Is there any tips, tools, anything that you can leave our listeners today?
What am I thinking about lately? It's kind of, remember when I was talking about there are things that I wish I had known, like the really obvious things, and so I'm writing a guidebook? Mm-hmm. I have like the first 5 things on the Map Your Healing website, and that's like for free if people want to go and download those. It's like a 8-page little, I call it a little book. And so that would be great. I'm always thinking about trauma healing. I'm always thinking about, like right now, I'm thinking a lot about being in the present moment. So if you can practice being in the present moment and breathing through the feelings and emotions in your body, I think that's just key. That's key to so many different ways to heal.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelly. Oh, gosh, girl, I've had fun. I love just chatting with you. I'm so happy that you came back on the Divas today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my gosh, you're so welcome. And I hope that you come back on the program again soon. We're going to be posting all of your information on our social media. I'm going to be adding all the links so that all of our listeners can check that out.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And a huge shout out to all of you listeners. As I said, thank you so much. It's been 11 seasons now that we have been doing the Divas That Care. We are listened to in over 30 countries around the world because of all of you. So a big shout out to the people out there, that our tribe that have really shared us, liked and commented on our programs. We appreciate each and every one of you, so thank you. As again, thank you to my amazing guest, Kelly. Thank you to our listeners, and I hope that you do something kind. Until next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.